I warned my brother about his fiancée's betrayal, but they cut me off and branded me a liar. Now, they're back begging for my help, but I'm not the same person I was. I, 30M, attempted to persuade my brother, 35M, to call off his wedding 3 years ago after learning that his fiancée, 33F, was unfaithful to him. Regretfully, none of the family members listened to my advice, and they nevertheless got married. Furthermore, by portraying me as a jealous person who couldn't bear to see my brother happy, they persuaded the family to cut me off. I haven't spoken to my family at all since, and they haven't made an effort to contact me either, until recently. They came a few days ago because they required me to testify in my brother's divorce proceedings. It seems that he had no intention of paying child support, but I have steadfastly refused to assist them. I'm now being accused of being selfish and callous. On the one hand, it feels like the necessary closure, and I'm rather happy that I can finally refuse them. However, some of my friends believe that I will later come to regret this choice. They think that this could be my one chance to make amends with my family, and if I turn them down now, I might not have another chance. What if I didn't testify in family court in support of my brother? I'm not sure what to do. Here is the whole tale for those of you who want to know more specifics. My brother, Mickey, and his fiancée, Na, who is now his wife, had been dating for 2 years when they were engaged. Mickey and I were not and had never been very close. Even as adults, our relationship as brothers was impacted by the fierce sibling rivalry we experienced as children. I was always, even unconsciously, in competition with him. The unfortunate thing is that my parents did little to deter this rivalry. They knew I disliked my brother and was angry that he was given preferential treatment over me simply because he was succeeding in life. To be fair, I was ignorant at the time and thought that families shouldn't evaluate you based on your performance. I believe that they ought to be somewhat neutral, particularly when it comes to siblings. Naturally, I now understand that's not how it operates. Everyone evaluates you according to your level of success, and family is no different. I had no idea how to approach things diplomatically at the time. Just whatever was on my mind, I would express it. Consequently, my parents discovered that I harbored animosity toward my brother since, despite my aversion to admitting it, he had consistently outperformed me in some areas. Unfortunately for my parents, these certain things were all that counted. Mickey did exceptionally well in science, math, and related subjects. After graduating from college, he began working at a rapidly expanding computer business and earned a lot of money early on. He was intelligent, and his career graph kept getting better, so it wasn't shocking. However, I wasn't doing that well. I wanted to be a writer, so I went after a degree in literature. When I realized I was probably not as good a writer as I had been told throughout my youth, I became despondent and left school in my second year. I was just average in most things when I was younger, but I was incredibly good at writing. At least in that sense, I thought I was comparable to my brother because I would win various contests. I used my writing abilities as a means of competing with his academic and project accomplishments. But after leaving college, I worked as a freelance copywriter in an attempt to make a living on my own. My brother was doing really well and had even begun to repay our parents, while I was barely making enough to live on my own. Comparisons between us were inevitable, of course. My parents always made it a point to encourage me to get a more respectable career and to take my life more seriously whenever the family gathered together. At the conclusion of each lesson about my life, they would either compare me to my brother, advise me to learn from him, or say something equally irritating. These discussions frequently devolved into yelling contests. I would tell them that I was sick of being treated the same way since I was a child, and that they were being bad parents by always comparing me to my brother. We would argue, cut off communication for a few weeks, and then they would try to make amends. It was the same ritual every time. Then, Mickey and his 2-year girlfriend became engaged. She had visited the family when they were dating, and I had met her a few times. Even while they were engaged, she seemed like a decent person and pleasant enough. However, my family threw a dinner party at our place approximately 2 weeks prior to the wedding. Despite our differences, Mickey and I always made an effort to maintain a friendly demeanor for appearances. Despite my lack of interest, I took part in every wedding-related activity. I still regret the decision I made to go out and smoke at some point during the dinner party. At that moment, I caught a glimpse of Mickey's fiancée into making out with my younger cousin Jacob. 27 million. I had walked a short distance from the house back then because my parents were unaware that I smoked. I was perplexed when I saw Jacob's automobile because he had previously stated that he was going home. Curiosity compelled me to investigate further. I saw them together at that point. I'm not sure which of the three of us was more surprised, but I stubbed out my cigarette right once and began to head home without turning around. Na entered after a few minutes when I got back, but Jacob was not there. I suppose he went home at last. Fortunately, there were no queries about what had happened because everyone had been drinking, and no one had realized that the three of us were missing. I didn't speak to my brother that evening. I left the party soon after because I hadn't had time to digest what I had witnessed. But Na persisted on messaging me all night long, pleading with me to keep what I had witnessed a secret from Mickey. She claimed that the only time she had made out with Jacob was when I saw them, and she felt a great deal of regret for it. She vowed that it would never occur again. Na begged me not to destroy her marriage, saying she was totally devoted to Mickey and would never do it again. She only asked that I keep her secret. After giving it some thought that evening, I made the decision to notify Mickey. I felt obligated to him as his brother, despite the fact that we were not particularly close. The least I could do was that. I told Mickey everything and asked if we might have lunch together the next day. He didn't answer right away, but he appeared astonished and upset. He simply thanked me for being honest with him before leaving for his house. I wasn't sure what to anticipate after that, so I was taken aback when, for a few days, no one in the family contacted me. About a week before the wedding, I discovered that everyone in the family had blocked me everywhere, which left me absolutely perplexed. I chose to go see my folks because I had no idea what was happening. I was shocked when they wouldn't even open the door. With nothing else to do, I went to see Mickey because I was sure he was involved. Mickey merely opened the door to make fun of me. He urged me to go as soon as he spotted me and began to make crude faces. His actions perplexed me much because the last time we spoke he had expressed gratitude for my candor, but he was singing a new song now. Mickey claimed that, because I was a terrible person, I was attempting to destroy his relationship with Na. I made up the narrative about her and Jacob, he said, simply to make things more dramatic. I knew Na had probably persuaded him that I was lying, even though his remarks were really hurting. I decided there was no use in debating, so I just went away without saying anything. My parents sent me a message later that day. After unblocking me, they informed me that they did not want me to get in touch with them ever again. Since I had nothing of my own, they accused me of being a jealous liar who was attempting to destroy Mickey's life and marriage. They accused me of fabricating terrible stories about my brother's fiancée in order to ruin their wedding, claiming they had always known I was bitter over his success. It was a horrible message. They declared that I was repulsive and that they no longer wished to interact with me. They were obviously duped by Na, and they trusted her more than their own son. Nothing I said would persuade them otherwise. I didn't communicate with my brother, parents, or the rest of the family for the following 5 years. They saw me as someone who, out of insecurity, had attempted to destroy Mickey's marriage. I was sick of trying, and there was nothing I could do to alter their perception of me. I decided to let it go. I was really distressed about what was occurring with my family, which made the first 5 years challenging. At first, I was depressed, but I eventually recovered. I'm doing fairly well for myself now. Since I've been in the business for years, my copywriting job pays higher, and my name is now more recognizable. I've realized how toxic my family was to me, therefore I'm happy with what I have and don't even miss them. They just came to my house and asked me to testify in family court on my brother's behalf, but I flatly refused. After everything they said to me and the way they have treated me for as long as I can remember, I don't believe I owe them anything. Nevertheless, my friends think I'll come to regret this choice. They believe that rather than excluding my family entirely, I should give them a chance, speak with them, and attempt to resolve the issue. Naturally, my family has done all in their power to make me regret my choice. They have been accusing me of being cold-hearted and self-centered in their emails and letters. They've even attempted to defend their behavior by claiming that they had good reason to ignore me and think NA was superior to me at the time. As much as I hate to say it, I can see their argument. As I previously stated, if my parents made a comparison between myself and my brother, I had a propensity to snap at them. This, of course, convinced my parents that I hated Mickey. They were so tempted to believe NA when she said that I was fabricating tales about her in order to destroy Mickey's life. Not that they were correct, but my remarks throughout those arguments weren't particularly polite either. In retrospect, I can see why they initially thought that the answer was no. Furthermore, I didn't really defend myself either. I didn't strive to support my version of events and instead let things go. Since they thought I had been lying, they naturally didn't get in touch with me for the following 5 years until they learned about NA's extramarital escapades. This past contributes to my current sense of guilt. I really think that if we had all tried, we could resolve the issue as a family, but none of us did. I'm included in it. This is the cause of my conflict. My friend's words that this might be my only opportunity to repair my ties with my family are still ringing in my ears. Particularly when the family is as toxic as mine, I am aware that people frequently claim they can live without them. However, I can't get rid of the notion that by declining to assist, I'm committing a grave error. I truly need to know whether I'm wrong for not testifying in court on my brother's behalf. Update. After careful consideration, I have chosen not to testify on Mickey's behalf. This is not something I must do. I've gotten by quite fine without my family for the past 5 years, so I don't even need to mend our relationship. I have no doubt that my family would not have contacted me if it weren't for the divorce and child support disagreements. For the past few months, Mickey and NA have been going through the divorce procedure. They were aware that I had been speaking the truth about NA's affair at the time, so it's not like they were unaware. Until they required my assistance, they simply didn't think it was essential enough to get in touch with me. Mickey learned about the affair a few months ago when he discovered NA messaging Jacob. NA maintains that the affair has barely lasted a year, saying it began when she felt ignored by Mickey, who had been preoccupied with his job. But a few weeks ago, their 1-year-old kid underwent a court-ordered paternity test, and the results showed that the youngster is not Mickey's. After the divorce, Mickey has understandably refused to pay child support. NA, however, maintains that since he has been the child's father for the past year, and not Jacob, he should keep providing for the child monetarily. I can help with this. To demonstrate that NA's affair with Jacob has been going on for more than a year, since before they were married, Mickey and my parents want me to testify in court. They require my testimony to back their claim that Jacob, Mickey's biological father, should assume responsibility and avoid paying child support. It's all quite intricate. In the end, Mickey and my parents have been aware of NA's affair for some months. They never bothered to contact me until they required my assistance, even though they knew I was telling the truth. I've been struggling with this discovery for the past few days. I finally came to the conclusion that I owed them nothing. I've had enough of them and can carry on avoiding them, as I have for the last 5 years. None of their frantic emails or messages have received a response from me. I don't even think I should. I have, however, discussed this matter with my friends, who were the ones who urged me to try to make amends and get back in touch with my family. Naturally, they wanted me to have no regrets and had my best interests in mind. Nevertheless, I felt compelled to inform them of my choice. I could see my buddies weren't totally on board when I gave them my justification. I didn't owe them an explanation, but I went into detail nevertheless. I made this decision because following my breakup with my family 5 years ago, these people have supported me. They have my sincere gratitude for their assistance. I told them what I knew about my family's poisonous behavior and how I had been handled by them in the past. This time I went into detail, even though they had a rough notion of what transpired. Because it was so personal and I detested reliving those experiences, I had previously avoided talking about it. However, I thought they should know how deeply it all impacted me. I opened up about everything, including the taunts and charges I encountered after telling my family the truth about NA. I also clarified that my family has only contacted me at this time because they require my assistance. They never will, and they never did appreciate me as a person. They haven't bothered to apologize for their actions, even though they have known for months that I was speaking the truth. They have been defensive, but they haven't really apologized as of yet. They even tricked me for a second since I was thinking about their perspective. Ultimately, though, they ought to have trusted their son over NA, but they didn't. So be it if it costs them now. I'm unable to stop it. Back then, Mickey and my parents didn't care that I was trying to warn them. Instead, they excluded me from their life and insulted me. Going back to these people would be wrong, and I will never longer injure myself in that way. That's the reason I'm staying away. My friends reassured me that they would back my decision after I told them how I felt. They concur that I've made the best choice for me now that they are aware of the full circumstances and my feelings. We are getting along well, and for that I am quite thankful. Second update, my family first arrived at my place 2 weeks ago, pleading with me to assist them. They chose to get in touch with me once more today because I didn't reply to their emails or messages. I was at home, and it was the weekend. In the afternoon, the doorbell began to ring constantly. When I looked out, my family was there. I made the decision to let the bell ring for a few minutes while I pretended to be away from home. However, rather than going, my father became irate, claiming to be aware that I was at home and insisting that I speak with them. I'm not sure how he deduced that, but I didn't respond. He insisted that I open the door and continued to shout outside for a few more minutes. He and Mickey eventually began pressing as hard as they could against the door, and I was worried that they may shatter it. All I could do was stand up and open the door. I was already somewhat irritated by that point. I didn't want to have to contact the police, and I had been quite clear that I wanted to be left alone. I didn't want to cope with the hassle that would come with living in a great neighborhood. I strongly informed them that I had already made up my decision, and that I didn't want to talk to them when I opened the door. I refused to assist them. It wasn't even about personal grudges at this point. All I wanted was to avoid them, and they had to accept that. I wasn't going to change my opinion by coming to my house. On the contrary, it only made me feel worse. Mickey begged me, but my parents remained silent. He claimed that because he didn't think it was just for him to pay child support for a child that wasn't his, he truly needed my assistance. I should help him, he said, because we are relatives. That's when I started laughing. We had been anything but family for the past 5 years, but now they wanted to behave like we were family again, just because they needed my assistance. I curtly informed Mickey that we couldn't merely act like family when it suited them. I told them to go since I no longer regarded them as family. My parents went crazy right away, so I suppose they didn't appreciate my tone. My mom informed me that I had no right to talk to them in that manner since, in spite of everything, they were still my parents and had reared me. Therefore, I owed them everything. My dad had began ranting at me. I retaliated, of course, and a few minutes later we were yelling at each other again. We might have continued much longer if it weren't for Mickey. Fortunately, he was able to stop them both. Then, unexpectedly, he turned to face me and started begging. He acknowledged that always the best brother, but he stated that if I helped him now, he would owe me a huge debt. Mickey said that he didn't really want children, and that it wasn't right for him to provide for an unfaithful wife and an unborn child. It all seemed dramatic, but I could tell he was desperate and really depended on me when he said that I was the only person who could stop this injustice. But after the argument I just had with my parents, I had no interest in assisting any of them at the moment. I threatened to call the police if they didn't leave. I closed the door after that. In the end, they did depart. After this, I really don't have anything more to say to them. So even though I'm not sure whether I did the right thing, I hope they leave me alone. I'm sorry for Mickey. Perhaps our relationship would have been completely different if our parents had been better parents. I'm not claiming Mickey was faultless or flawless, but I can't help but feel sad for him given his current predicament. He could have completely averted this situation if he had simply paid attention to my warnings. I still believe that our parents destroyed his life. Mickey might have been able to persuade me to assist if they hadn't treated me so terribly. However, the harm has already been done. Even though I genuinely hope Mickey is exempt from paying child support since, morally speaking, NA doesn't deserve it, I will not be assisting him. That's saying something because I hate NA even more than I hate my parents. I firmly believe that it is unethical for Mickey to be required to pay child support for a child that is not his. I'll stay out of it, but I hope things work out for him. Third update. Since my last update, which was 3 months ago, not much noteworthy has transpired. My parents have made multiple attempts to contact me, but they have yet to offer an apology. Rather, I've received emails informing me that my refusal to assist Mickey is a grave error. As if that would convince me otherwise, they even admitted that they are embarrassed to refer to me as their son. They were continuously disparaging me in their emails, and eventually it became tiresome, so I stopped reading them. They kept making new accounts solely to irritate me, not because I hadn't tried to block them. I very certainly had. In any case, I found it easy to overlook, because I didn't give a damn. After a while, I became preoccupied with my job once more and stopped caring about it. I just learned about Mickey's custody battle and my parents via a cousin whose mother is close to my parents. This cousin and I have always gotten along, so she has been keeping me informed even though I haven't been in contact with most of my relatives. She informed me last week that Mickey would not be required to pay child support. Jacob has made the decision to become a father to his child after much deliberation. Jacob wasn't ready to commit at first, but now made it plain that she would leave him if he didn't take the initiative and become a father. As my brother predicted, Jacob had, of course, been in contact with her all along and had met his biological kid multiple times. Although he didn't want to commit to anything, he did have a bond with his son. I suppose he finally consented to her requirements because he was afraid of losing Na. I've heard that Jacob and Na intend to tie the knot as soon as her divorce is finalized. They have begun to accept all of Mickey's demands in an effort to move things forward more quickly. But I already know that Na won't make it through this since no relationship ever survives an ultimatum. In any case, that will be her karma, and I don't give a damn. The fact that Mickey is leaving this mess makes me pleased. I hope that we can get back together someday, but I don't think my parents will allow it to happen as long as they are here. However, I don't really care about it. These things no longer have an impact on me, and I'm content with my life.